MARPOL Annex 1 to 6 Mandatory Regulation and Legislative Requirements. Mandatory Regulation. In the context of MARPOL, International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, the term mandatory regulation refers to a set of rules that standards that must be followed by ships to ensure compliance with the convention. These regulations are not optional. They are obligatory and binding for all ships falling under the scope of MARPOL. The mandatory regulations cover various aspects of pollution prevention and environmental protection in the maritime industry. Each MARPOL Annex addresses specific types of pollution and outlines regulations to prevent or minimize these pollutants. The mandatory nature of these regulations emphasize the commitment of the international community to safeguard the marine environment and reduce the impact of shipping activities. 1. MARPOL Annex 1 Oil Pollution Prevention. Mandatory regulation focus on the prevention of oil pollution from ships, including regulations for oil tankers, oil record books, oil discharge, monitoring equipment, and shipboard oil pollution emergency plan. MARPOL Annex 2 Noxious Liquid Substances. Mandatory regulation addresses the prevention of pollution by noxious liquid substances carried in bulk. This includes regulations for the construction and equipment of ships, the categorizations of substance, and procedures for discharge. Annex 3 Harmful Substances in Package Form. Mandatory regulations cover the prevention of pollution by harmful substances in package form. This includes labeling, packing, and communication requirements for the transport of packaged dangerous goods. Annex 4 Sewage Pollution Prevention. Mandatory regulation focus on preventing pollution from sewage by setting standards for sewage treatment system discharge criteria and the implementation of shipboard marine pollution emergency plans. Annex 5 Garbage Pollution Prevention. Mandatory regulation address the prevention of pollution by garbage from ships. These regulations include requirements for the disposal of various types of garbage, special areas, and the management of ships' generated garbage. Annex 6 Air Pollution. Mandatory regulations aim to prevent air pollution from ships by setting standards for emission of solar oxides, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. The annex also includes energy efficiency measures. Compliance with these mandatory regulations is essential for ship operators, and failure to adhere to them can result in penalties and consequences, including fines, designation, and restrictions on ship movements. The goal is to ensure a uniform and high standard of environmental protection across the international maritime community. Legislative requirements. In the context of MARPOL, International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships, the term legislative requirements refers to specific laws and regulations that have been established by the contracting parties countries to implement and enforce the domestic laws enacted by individual countries to give effect to the international standards and obligations set out in MARPOL. Annex 1 Air Pollution. Legislative requirements may include national regulation governing the construction and requirement of oil tankers, oil spill response plans, requirements for oil records books, and penalties for violation related to oil pollution prevention. Annex 2, Nexus Liquid. Countries enact, enact legislative requirements to ensure compliance with the regulation outlined in Annex 2. This may include laws related to the construction and equipment of ships carrying noxious liquid substances, produced for the issuance of international pollution prevention certificates, and penalties for non-compliance. Annex 3, harmful substances in package form. Legislative requirements for the domestic implementation of regulation related to the packing, labeling, and documentation of packaged harmful substances. Countries may establish laws to enforce proper handling, storage, and trans- transport of dangerous goods. Annex 4, sewage pollution. Legislative requirements in this context involve nation laws that translate the standards and guidelines outlined in Annex 4 into domestic regulations. This includes laws governing the construction and use of sewage treatment system, discharge criteria, and the implementation of shipboard marine pollution emergency plans. Annex 5, garbage pollution. Legislative requirements encompass domestic laws addressing the prevention of pollution by garbage from ships. This includes regulations on the disposal of different types of garbage, requirements for garbage management plans, and penalties for violation. Annex 6, air pollution. Legislative requirements related to Annex 6 involve domestic laws addressing air pollution prevention from ships. This includes regulations on sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide emissions, the use of compliant fuels, and the implementation of emergency efficiency measures. Countries countries as contract parties to MARPOL are responsible for incorporating the convention requirements into their national legal frameworks. This process involves the establishment of legislative measures that ensure effective implementation, monitoring, and enforcement of the pollution prevention standards outlined in MARPOL Annex 1 to 6. The legislative requirements contribute to the global effort to protect the marine environment from various forms of pollution originating from ships' activities.